It's hard to tell as of right now if Haason Reddick is still going to be a Philadelphia Eagle. And, edge rusher is a huge problem, as well as we're empty at linebacker and safety. And looking for the next number one corner or adding more talent to that position, it's coming to a sense now that edge rusher might be another hole that the Eagles are going to have to pay up and try to retain, whatever the case may be with it, and should be interesting. So let's get into it.
We better turn. Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? I hope everyone's having a fantastic day too. So I'm going to go over some news for the Philadelphia Eagles, a few things to go over here in regards to Assan Reddick and the future, what everything holds with him. It's hard to tell as of right now because Assan Reddick is kind of looking for that specific number of his worth being an underpaid defensive end for the Philadelphia Eagles, and wondering if Assan Reddick is going to fit in Vic Fangio's system going forward. And, I feeling like he's going to talk to some other teams, as we all know, requested to speak to other teams just to see what his worth is. The Eagles feel like where his value is right now, I guess they seem fair to, that's where they're at. And if Haason Reddick goes back to the Eagles with a specific number, are the Eagles going to budge, meet in the middle, or pay him a crazy amount of money? The rumor is Haason Reddick wants to get paid a little bit north of $25 million, okay? For a guy that's turning 30 in September, it's really hard for me to let go of Haason Reddick. It's tough. You save up 11 to $16 million. With an extension, it's $11 million. With a trade, I don't know how that works with the money wise, but they're going to be saving over 11 to $16 million regardless, which is a really big chunk of change for the Eagles cap space, as well as some other moves that we're kind of waiting for, with maybe Kevin Byard getting cut post June for $14 million. So a lot of cap space involved with one of these two moves, and everything adds up together nicely, where the Eagles can have almost $50 million in cap space and do whatever they want. But when you have Nolan Smith that really hasn't produced, not his fault at all, because he really wasn't given any playing time, and unfortunately didn't really get much of an opportunity till Derek Barnett was out of here, and then really got more reps at the end of the year. But with two injuries for Nolan Smith, coming out of training camp with the stinger, and then had another injury, I think after or during the Seattle game. I forgot what game he had an injury. I think it was that game, or it was probably earlier than that. I forgot what game it was. So dealt with some injuries already. And Brandon Graham's a free agent. And you have nothing else but Josh Sweat on the last year of his deal. Okay, there's nothing much there at defensive end. So why go out, waste your time? And if you're going to let go of Assan Reddick, then just to go out and pay another defensive end, I don't know. For me, just makes no sense. In my opinion, I think a lot more has to happen here. We looked at other ones regarding, Brian Burns is another player that apparently, he was already given a contract, or not given, but he was accepted at $27 million. They were willing to pay Brian Burns that. Looks like the franchise tag might go on him. We'll see what happens by that time. Hasn't happened yet, but now Brian Burns is asking for $30+ million. And the number one thing is Haason Reddick needs to sign as fast as possible. So if Brian Burns gets $30 million, and now that's Brian Burns is 100% off the table for the Philadelphia Eagles, because I don't think they're paying that. If you want to pay one of your own, it's going to be Haason Reddick. Okay. I don't see them paying 25 plus or even 30 plus for a defensive end, especially if Haason Reddick was 25, 26 years old, 27. I'd say it was a pretty fair deal. You can have him on a 3-year deal, 4-year deal, whatever the case may be. But when a guy that's turning 30 in September, and not saying, look, I have no issue with Haason Reddick and what his worth, what his value is. He deserves more money. The problem is, just how much of a big extension how much money you're gonna put into a guy that, I think fortunately, he has done a great job. I think he could play for a few more years, probably longer than that. Who knows? Because Reddick just seems to not slow down at all. He gets better and better every single year. You come from a 16.5 sack season with the Eagles in 22 to 11.5 sacks for this year. It's absolutely amazing. It's really hard to pay a guy that's going into his 30s big money like that when you have so many holes to your defense, safety, linebacker, looking for another cornerback. So, you do have draft capital as well, but hopefully they do meet that number. Because at the end of the day, are you trying to downgrade from Haason Reddick? Haason Reddick does not want to leave the Eagles. He has already said he's just looking for his number and that's it, and then going to work something out. He knows that it is a business at the end of the day, but if they're going to downgrade, it's going to be a big loss for the Philadelphia Eagles if they can't meet in the middle on some type of number. Do I really want to go to a Leonard Floyd that's just going to be here for a year and just rent a guy for the year? Do you want to go out and get Chase Young where, hey, he had a pretty good year, went to a really good team from a bad team in Washington to a good team with the 49ers and had 74 pressures, 54 hurries, and 7.5 sacks. Some fans, Eagle fans in general, are kind of questioning Chase Young and, his lack of, I don't know. I guess he's been really lazy on the field making tackles. He hasn't really showed too much even with the 49ers. I mean, he looks good with that group in general because he's next to some really good players. But as an eye-opener for the Eagles, bringing him in on a cheap, 1 to 2 year deal, I don't think he did anything with the 49ers that's going to give him more money or anything. I think he still needs a big prove-it deal this year. I don't think Chase Young gets that big money. I don't care if he was in a Super Bowl or not. I mean, he literally piggybacked off of a really good defensive line in general. And, I don't know. I can't take too much out of that when it comes to players jumping on superior rosters that already had so much depth on the defensive line as it is. So, I mean, I don't want to go out and get, if Nolan Smith had 6 to 10 sacks this year, if he had a monster season, it wouldn't be as bad letting go of Assan Reddick and keeping somebody that's on a cheaper income on the roster to stay here. But because Nolan Smith has not produced, Josh Sweat's on the last year of his deal, and if they pay Assan Reddick, it's goodbye Josh Sweat. You know what I mean? So they would have to make a decision this year, re-sign Haason Reddick, go draft an edge guy between the first 3 picks. I mean, I don't know. At this point, I don't know what they're doing at cornerback. I have no idea if they're going to want to get the money from Haason Reddick is going to make a huge difference here because it gravitates towards what are they going to do at other positions, whether it's linebacker, whether it's safety, cornerback, probably the number 1 position right now because, Bradbury waiting for him to get cut, and potentially, are they going to get a trench guy in the first round, or do they go another position and kind of put more focus into something else in the first round, like cornerback, something the Eagles haven't done in years? So the money is a factor. The cap space is a huge factor when it comes to all of this. And like I said, are you willing to downgrade from Haason Reddick, your best player on your defense pretty much, to a Chase Young, to a Leonard Floyd? I don't know. I'm not really into it that much. But hopefully in the near future, we'll get an answer on what's really going on with Haason Reddick and this number and where they're going to go with all of this. So other than that, that's pretty much it. I think there's so many other positions to go through, and we've kind of been going through all of them. Edge rusher is going to become one of the biggest holes the Eagles have. If they lose Haason Reddick, I don't know if to say if we're in trouble, but it ain't going to look too great. So let me know what you guys think what the Eagles should do with Haason Reddick. Do you think he should get signed a lot quicker before Brian Burns gets a deal? I mean, because that's all it's going to take. It's all it's going to take is Brian Burns getting $30+ million, and then Haason Reddick's going to say, yep, I have better stats than him. I should get paid more than him. And that's where the number is going to sit in the market. And unfortunately, that's usually what happens. If one player gets paid a big amount of money, the next player that isn't signed, that either is better or in the same league as that player, is going to ask for the same or more money. So I'm hoping there is a balance here. Okay. If Haason Reddick was a lot younger, I get it, but you're not paying that. If the Eagles didn't have that many holes defensively, they had maybe 1 hole, 2 holes, nothing crazy. They got they have to a linebacker position that needs a full revamp with Nakobe Dean still there, coming off of 3 injuries pretty much. And you have a safety position that just has Reed Blankenship there, and Sidney Brown is out until next October with the torn ACL. So I mean, there's a lot. You got to get 6 bodies between 2 positions, and this defensive line, Vic Fangio is going to get his guys, no doubt. And hopefully with Haason Reddick, we'll meet in the middle of that number. And if we don't, man, it's going to suck to lose him. So let me know what you guys think about that. I'll see you guys on the next one. Shicks, what up? Follow side. Peace out, guys. Peace.